All right. So we are continuing with this whole sermon series it's foolish wisdom. And this series is really in this vein of series that we've done for multiple years now. I think about 4 years ago we did a series called Rise and Fall, that it was all about 1st and 2nd Samuel, and it was about the kings Saul and David. And then a year after that we did Judges. And we went through Judges, nothing but cheerful stories in Judges, you know. It's all good news in there, right? We went through Judges, and then last year we did other things during this time. But this year we're doing 1st and 2nd Kings, and really the best way to kind of go through 1st, 2nd Kings is to look at it through the lens of Solomon, Elijah, and Elisha. And Solomon is such an interesting story because it's almost like Solomon forgot the founding principle of what God is and what God does, right? Because God is all about saying, this is his identity to his people. I am the God who rescued you out of Egypt. And King Solomon kind of forgot about all that, and he kind of became about himself, right? And he started to become like Egypt over there. So much so, and this is what's so nefarious. He was trying to do a good thing for God by building the temple, but he used slave labor, like Egypt, to build it. And it's like, oh, that's icky, Solomon. What are you doing, man? And that's kind of what happens is that Solomon is trying to build the kingdom greater and greater, become more and more powerful. And just like everything you've ever heard, it's that pride comes before a fall, right? Like the kingdom that wants to become greater is just going to fall even more. You got to remember, it's all about serving the people underneath you. And that's what happens. The kingdom gets weak. Solomon ends up dying, and he raises up his son Rehoboam. And Rehoboam is given an option, will you be a servant king? And he goes, no, I'm going to enslave even more people than my father. And he does that, and much like the French Revolution, when they said, let them eat cake, like the people are like, we've had enough of that, and they split the kingdom, right? And there's just nothing but warfare and bad times. And we finally get to this king that we're talking about today in the story of Elijah. We get to Ahab. And I got to tell you, these stories that we're going to be talking about today about King Ahab and Elijah are like the stories. So the story we're talking about today is the Widow of Zarephath. Elijah and the Widow of Zarephath. I asked a bunch of people this week, do you know that story? And everyone's like, yeah, I do know that story. Like these stories are huge in the wisdom. They're like blockbuster stories, right? Like people know these stories of Elijah, and we love these big stories. Memorial Day is next weekend. It's the beginning of the summer movie blockbuster schedule. Are you guys ready for your summer blockbusters? No? Do you even know what big movies are coming out this summer? Yeah, like some do. I'm seeing some of you are like, no, I believe in living boring lives. Like that's good. That's good. You know, like all that stuff. But like it's these summer movie blockbusters we love these big stories, right? One of my favorite directors is this guy named Christopher Nolan, I should say. And it's not because his name is Christopher. It's because of his movies. But my favorite movie is Interstellar. Like this one, if you haven't seen that movie, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Like that's just like over there. It's great movie. But all of his movies are just huge blockbuster movies. I mean, that's The Dark Knight and Inception and all of these things. But also, there's all these grand stories from the past too. Like it's like the past. You know, like Jurassic Park. You know, it's the people that were born around that time of Jurassic Park, they're like well into their mortgages now. You guys know that, right? Like that's like dressing her. But like you think to the past, back when Chuck Heston is yelling at Yul Brynner to let my people go. You know, that's the Ten Commandments. See, you guys are losing it on these movies, right? The Ten Commandments. But you have all these huge summer blockbusters. Actually, Christopher Nolan has one this summer. He's doing The Odyssey. So look forward to that. But there's so many good things coming out. But we love these big stories. And these stories about Elijah are sitting right there with them. It's these stories that we know and that sit with us. They're just part of the biblical lexicon that we're aware of all these big. You're like, oh, look at how God is working through his servants, right? All these big stories. I mean, think about how big Elijah is. We just did those Passover meals. And at every one of the meals that we did on Monday, Thursday, there was a spot for Elijah. I heard one of the families made the kids go outside and look for Elijah, right? Like that. And so that's like over there. It's all part of it. But sometimes we think like the bigness of the story is the point, but it's not. It's not. It's the people that are in it. But these are epic stories, though. I mean, so basically how this begins is Elijah comes to this terrible king Ahab. He comes up to Ahab and he's like, 3.5 years. Like God, the true God, the God that has rescued his people out of Egypt, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is going to make it stop raining until he wants it to rain again. And he has to run then from the courts of Ahab. And God's like, hide. And so he hides out there, and God provides for Elijah to drink out of this in the middle of nowhere, out of this small brook. And God sends ravens, which are just dirty birds, according to Jewish customs, to send him something to eat. But then the brook dries up. The brook dries up, and we catch on to this part of the story here. And it says, then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon. Stay there. I've directed a widow there to supply you with food. Cool, huh? Yeah. Where's Zarephath? Where's Sidon? Like that's see there's all kinds of stuff that is communicated with these regions and what's going on here that if you were a Jewish reader of these stories, you'd clutch your pearls. You're like, oh, you went to Sidon and Zarephath? Like, oh my goodness, you're like fanning yourself. Like that's, I can't believe we do that. But we read that, it's just like a place. It's like if I told you I grew up in Villa Rica, Georgia. You're like, cool. I don't know what that means. If you know Spanish, you're like, that knows something about gold. Villa Rica has an underperforming gold mine in it, and that's why the city was created. You know, that's where I grew up. That's kind of how we treat these names. But so that you understand what these names mean, we got to go and talk about these two people. Ahab and Jezebel. Ever heard of Jezebel before? That name should like Jezebel has this kind of huge air about her, right? It's like even if you don't know her biblical stories, you're like, oh yeah, I know about Jezebel. I lived next to her for 5 years, you know? Like that's like that we have like that. That's just how we kind of understand these things. So Ahab though is this Israelite king, and he married Jezebel, who's not Israelite. In fact, she's from the region of Sidon, right? Like so she's from this area that God tells Elijah to go to. Ooh, okay. And it's just, Ahab is described in the Bible as doing more evil than all of the kings before him. One of the reasons why he's done more evil is that he has instituted worship of Baal, or the correct pronunciation is Baal, right? Like that's Baal. All is a term for God, type of thing. So I'm not going to get into that. That's a long sermon already. So like he institutes worship for Baal. Now, what's interesting about Baal or Baal is like I did some searching for like modern conceptions of Baal or Baal. It really seems like a lot of people take our view of like what like the devil is and kind of put it onto Baal. Like that's not what's going on in there. Baal was a fertility god back in that time. He was a fertility god, which means that God is in charge of fruitfulness. So he's kind of in charge of the rains so that fall on the ground so the crops can grow. You guys remember the water cycle from 6th grade, you know? Like that's what that God is. Jezebel is from this region that has Baal worship in it. And so Ahab has brought Baal worship into that kingdom, and he's in charge of the rain. So when Elijah comes into All right, I'm on now. Okay. Well, that's cool. It's nice to see. Oh, I know. It's like, we're back. I'm sorry that the battery died. All those things. So let's start over. No, I'm kidding. that's. But yeah, I mean, it's like he goes out to Zarephath, to the place where batteries don't last. And like there's nothing there, and she's over there, and it's interesting, this widow who has nothing, Elijah comes up to her and he says, bring me a drink. Remember, they're in a drought. Bring me a drink and bring me some bread. And she's like, no. I don't want to do that, which is kind of odd in that culture, but we're not going to get into that today. She's like, this is all I have left. Like, it's what I was going to do is I have just a little ball of flour, and I was going to use the last little bit of my oil and that flour, and I was going to make one small cake, and me and my son were going to eat that, and then we will die. It's an uplifting story. But Elijah says, God, like, it's all right, because God will cause the oil and the flour to last forever. He'll cause it to last, and that's what happens, is that miraculously, like each day, you know, they're like digging out the flour and the oil and hitting the bottom of it. It never runs out. It's like, all right, God, like you're so amazing. Like the oil, it's kind of like the Israelites out in the wilderness, and when they're picking up the manna, they have just enough for each day. And it looks like, oh man, God provides. But if you were paying attention to what Nancy was reading earlier, like there's an interesting twist. Suddenly that son gets sick and he dies. And the widow doesn't understand. I think for good reason. Like she's like bona fide angry at him. I imagine she goes up like her son just dies and she says to Elijah, like, what do you have against me, man of God? I have a feeling the man of God was said a little sarcastically. Do you hear it? You know, it's like that's. I feel like some of you call me that. It's like, what are you doing, preacher? You know, like that, like that whole thing. You know, did you come to remind me of how awful I am so that you could kill my son? Did you just keep us alive so that I could begin to have hope? It's the hope that'll kill you, for those Ted Lasso fans out there, right? That is. I think we can understand that. And Elijah, you know, he ends up grabbing the boy and he takes him up into the room that he is staying in, and he ends up praying to God for the boy. And he ends up laying on him 3 times, which is weird, but it's in the story. He lays on him 3 times, and God hears his prayer, and the boy begins to breathe again. Restores his soul, his life. It's amazing. Jesus quotes this story. Did you catch it in the gospel reading today? Jesus quotes this story. And the point of Jesus' story is fascinating because he's kind of saying to everyone, hey, I'm the Messiah. I'm the Messiah. And he's in his hometown. He's in Villarica. It's actually Nazareth, which means the sticks, like over there. He's in his hometown, and he goes to church. They called it synagogue back then. He's handed the scroll of Isaiah, and he reads from Isaiah, and it says, I've come to proclaim liberty to the captives, the recovery of sight to the blind. I am the one who Isaiah foretold. And he closes all of the scroll, and he says, today, all of this has been fulfilled in your hearing. How did everyone in his hometown hear that? They were like, oh. They were amazed at what they heard, like, oh my goodness, that's great. But they started kind of asking amongst themselves, they're like, we know who this guy is. Like everyone there's probably people that babysat Jesus when he was like 3 years old, right? It's like, I've seen what you did in 3 years when you were 3. You dropped that applesauce in the ground on purpose. Like I saw that, like that's like you're claiming to be the Messiah. Like you grew up here. You're just Joseph's boy, aren't you? And they went to school with Joseph. It's like, Joseph doesn't believe the moon landing happened. Like, how could you be anything special, right? Like that. That's like, what's going on here, Jesus? We've talked to your dad and mom. Those people aren't anything special, and you're sitting here talking that you're gonna be the Messiah. Like, to all those people in that town, they knew how the Messiah was going to come. It was going to come with power and glory through the line of David, right? Through kings, that he was going to come. And then Jesus, as they look at all of this, Jesus says this about the widow of Zarephath. He goes, I assure you that there were many widows in Israel during Elijah's time, when the sky was shut, when it didn't rain for 3.5 years, when there was this severe famine throughout the whole land. Like, think about what he's saying here. He's like, you guys are judging me about where I'm from and all of these things. And he's like, there were widows that were struggling during this time. Yet Elijah was not sent to any of them, but the widow from the place that Jezebel was from, which would cause everyone to, clutch their pearls. And like that, they're like, oh. And he's basically saying, he's like, you guys are expecting the Messiah to come from all these big places. But when you look at it, God often comes through the outsiders in even places that are from the bad end of town, from Zarephath. And God gave her life. God gave her food. It didn't come, God didn't go during the famine to Ahab and all of his power, but rather to that outsider, the one who has no hope. And this means everything here. Because so often inside of our Christian lives, we put this pressure on ourselves. This pressure that I gotta figure it all out. I gotta be part of this big godly story. That I need to be part of the next big thing. They need to be great. And then if I could just figure these things out, if I could understand how the workings of all these things work, then we can fix our problems and do these big, great things. But the problem is that when we connect God to just doing big things, or the God who's got everything figured out, or that we begin to worship that big God only, I think it's easy for us to find ourselves worshiping actually the bigness. And we end up serving other gods. We end up serving Baal or Baal. But we don't really have other gods in this day and time, right? Yeah. We actually end up serving, when we want bigness and all this stuff, we end up serving money, power, prestige, greatness. And if we can finally get that, if we can finally align the stars in all those things, it will finally rain God's Spirit onto the drought that I'm feeling. If I can just have control over what's going on. Just like if I could have control over my microphone today. Or we believe that if I come from the right people group, the right land, my grandfather was a pastor, God will bless me. My mom raised me right. If I just do what she taught me, God has no choice but to bless my life. I'm on the path for the good stuff. And I think when we looked at this story, when Jesus, standing in front of his hometown crowd that is not happy with him, and he says that God went to this widow of Zarephath, I think what he's saying is that you don't have to be the big Blockbuster Christian for God to love you. You don't need a massive spiritual resume. You don't need to conquer the world, have a perfect family, carry immense power for God to notice you. In fact, that's kind of what evil wants you to think. Because if we're serving when we got things figured out, then in the back of our mind, those anxieties of our imperfections, the ones that keep us up at night, the ones that we look ourselves in the mirror and go, I sure hope no one finds out about that, then those are the things that end up controlling us. That it's like evil is picking out on you and saying those quiet struggles, those hidden anxieties, those just ordinary days. And it goes, because you struggle with those, God has no plan for you. God doesn't save us because we are part of the big grand story or we're in the right family. God saves people. Just normal people. Look at how Jesus comes into this world. God saves. He doesn't come in this huge blockbuster story. No, Jesus comes into the world through a girl who was pregnant before she should have been. Born amongst shepherds. And shepherds were outcasts in that day and time. In animals. And he was raised in Nazareth, which literally means the sticks. Yeehaw Junction, right? And people would say, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Is what they say about him. And when it came time for him to save the world, he didn't summon some grand army, but he allowed himself to be stripped and beaten and nailed to a piece of wood. And I know for us Christians, that piece of wood, the cross, is like, it looms large in our memory, just like our cross back there. By the way, if you ever want to see how small this place is, go up and touch that cross someday. Try not to be disappointed. It's styrofoam. Anyway. Oh, I know. Oh, no. I ruined it. Some of you are like, no, it's not. But that's kind of the point. Is that to Rome, the cross was like the French Revolution's guillotine. Like where they did it so much that they even keep records on everyone that they were killing on that thing. Like it was just small, just getting rid of somebody. But in that foolish, small reality of the cross, that's when God crushed the head of Satan, defeated evil, paid the price for every one of your sins, and brings you back from death to life. just like he did with that son of that widow who was outside of the providence and the goodness of God, struggling with basic needs and food, when she sees Elijah carrying down her son, who is breathing in the very Spirit of God as he brings down their son, and she sees that her son lives. May you see the beauty of the creation that is found even in a small grass blade that grows up, or what I'm struggling with right now, weeds amongst my flowers. The glory of God's creation, creating life where I thought I only created death in those weeds. May you see that God is creating that life even when in the midst of death. May you push aside all the searches for greatness and power in the world and serve the people that God saves. The people in here, and even those people driving by, they're going to beat you to brunch. That's foolish wisdom. But it's such good news. And we'll end right there. Let's say a prayer. God, we thank you that you have brought us all together. We thank you for all the things that we have that are great, the great live streams, and the great batteries that die. May God, may you, through our humble means, continue to serve the world around us, and that we could join in you in that mission. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. And we'll sing our next song together.